Yeah, the irony of it, when I left school in the 60s, there was plenty of jobs, but the world has changed, and our schools haven't. And so they're still making this innate promise of get a job. And I was very fortunate when I graduated in '69. We're the highest paid graduates in the world. My classmates were making about $120,000 to $150,000 a year. That's not much money today, but 1969, that was a lot of money. So I had my rich dad's lesson, the rich don't work for money, in my head. I said, okay, I'm making all this money, I have a secure job. Financial education is about not working for money. Like one of the first questions when I finally realized what my rich dad was saying, I said, well, when do I never need a paycheck again? My goal is to never need a paycheck again from anybody, even the government. I don't want any Medicare, Social Security, or whatever. While I was a military pilot, so you got to get the military pilot pension. I said, you do, but I'm not going to. And just because of this here, that was the difference. Because I never wanted to work for money to need a paycheck. So the next few lessons in Millennial Money, you'll find out what I do work for. So for right now, just let me go to the lesson here. So this comes from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and these are some of the distinctions. It was the advantage I had at age 9, because I knew what I wanted to work for. And this here, in simple terms, is called a financial statement. So this is what your banker wants to see. So when I was 9 years old, playing Monopoly with my rich dad, this is the lesson that's not included in Monopoly, but Rich Dad taught me. And fundamentally, the problem that most people make, they go to school to get a job, and they work here. So this is the poor, middle class, and these guys. And we're going to talk about later, your first line item expense is taxes. Just recently, President Trump said he had a tax cut. He didn't have a tax cut for these guys. As you know, the rules are always written for the rich, okay? I didn't make the rules. You can get angry at me, but these are the rules. The rich make the rules. The golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
So the tax cut went to people here. That's where it goes to. You'll learn more about this later on. But this is what I work for. So what I work for, number one, is I'm an entrepreneur. I want businesses. I have multiple businesses. And I don't work in them, as you know, because you work here. You never see me, do you?
No.
Because I don't work for a paycheck.
Exactly.
Next is real estate. And real estate is good for many things which we'll go into, but number one is debt. I use a lot of debt to buy real estate, and I pay no taxes. That's the relationship there. The next is paper. And that's savings, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and that stuff. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't save money. I don't have any of that. But this is what most people have: go to school, get a job, get a 401k, and save money. Loser. Okay. I'm doing that just to upset you guys, because maybe you'll start to think. Because I didn't make the rules. I'm just telling you these are the rules. These people pay the highest taxes, and they work the hardest. And the last are commodities. So this is what I work for. When I left school, rather than working for a paycheck and working for money, my education had to go beyond getting a job, which I had a good job. But I now had to start, when I left school, about your age, the thing I focused on first actually was commodities. So back in 1972, I started buying gold. And it was illegal for Americans to own gold. Can you imagine that? Today you have Bitcoin. It's different, okay? Everything is changing so rapidly today. So I started with gold, but actually the next thing was actually oil, because I went to school to be a tanker officer, driving ships for Standard Oil. And then I went into real estate. Why? Because I can use debt to buy real estate. And because I use debt, I pay no taxes. And then third, my first real business was a nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. And I went worldwide right away. The trouble is I was an idiot, and the business went up and the business came down. What kept me alive was this and this. So you may say, well, aren't you working for money? But we'll go into that next. I don't want what's called a paycheck. I want cash flow. So that's what I mean by the rich don't work for money. You want cash flow that pays very little taxes, and I can use lots of debt over here. The average person who went to school, Their biggest liability they have is student loans, of course. I mean, it's horrible what they do to you guys today. You have student loan, which is the worst type of debt of all because you cannot declare bankruptcy on it. Then you get out and you try and buy a house and you call it an asset when it's really a liability. Why? Because the cash is flowing that way. Your house costs you money. You rent a house, still costs you money. Then you have to have a nice car. I had one of those. So the problem with most young people is they go to school to get that job, then a lot of them have student loan debt, then they try and get married and buy a house, they have a car, and then they have credit card debt. So the question is, when I talk to people about financial education, well, right now, we're going to talk about, there's another issue, is Bitcoin, the dollar, and gold. Which one is better? I love real estate, again, because it's debt. I use debt to buy real estate. And everybody else is saying get out of debt. I'm in debt about $600 million. The average person cannot pay for their credit card debt. Wow. That's how tragic it is. And these educated, I'm talking about educated people. Yeah. Okay. And then this here, I get tax breaks because I have employees. This will be another subject going down with millennial money. But if you have a job, you're taxed. If you hire employees, they give you tax breaks. Look at right now, Amazon is looking for a new home. Every government wants to give them a home. You know, please move to Indiana, please move to Canada. Why? Because they'll bring in employees, and employees pay the tax. So that's why when your teacher says you go to school to get a job, you say, I'll think a little bit differently this time. Now you need a job in interim, but you want a job for the experience. That's the difference. So the reason Rich Dad's lesson number one is rich don't work for money is I never want a paycheck. I want to use debt, and I don't want to pay tax. I pay some tax, but minimum tax. But I want to accumulate this so I have cash flow. Our company encourages everybody to come here, right? So what would you say to your friends or your fellow millennials about why the rich don't work for money?
I would tell them that they really, truly need to educate themselves because to work for money is completely ridiculous. While taxes are increasing and the inflation is increasing, it doesn't make any sense to be working from paycheck to paycheck. The rich don't work for money. The money works for them.
Or being afraid of being fired.
Yeah.
Or losing your pension. Did you realize that's the biggest terror of most people? I might lose my pension too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad that it's one of the biggest fears of everybody on a daily basis, whether they're going to get fired or not.